we're back. Welcome to My Poly Life. I'm Phoenix. This is my wife, Victoria, our daughter, and our co-host, M. How's everybody doing today?
We're doing fantastic.
All right, Vic.
I'm okay. I'm good. It's been a baby, a little tiring, but we're here.
Yeah, usually she sleeps through these. I think today she was a little curious as to what's going on. So speaking of what's going on, it's been a while since we kind of got together to do this, guys. What's new with you all? Any good positive updates?
Yeah, so there's a couple shifts that's happening in my life. I'll be moving to a new kitchen because my business needs to grow, and a bigger kitchen's better for us. And I'll be moving apartments too, so I can be more creative in my space. So there's that.
There you go. Hey, well, just congrats on that, because this is an era where like a lot of restaurants that have been around for a long time are closing. So to be expanding in the middle of COVID, that's commendable.
Absolutely.
Respect.
Absolutely. Yeah, congratulations. So for me, something I've been trying to work on is a consulting business. I do HR, so I've been trying to make that work. And I picked up a really big client about a week and a half ago, I think. Yeah, about a week and a half ago. So I'm really excited. The potential for where I can go and what I can do outside of having like a regular 9-to-5 job is actually pretty amazing. So I'm really excited about being able to build with this client and see where it goes.
Heck yeah, that was a really good win too. I had a smaller win. Like, it's not a win, it's like I don't know. It's not quite a win, but one of my films made it to the second level of selection for Sundance. So it's not quite a win, but we're closer to a win, I guess.
It's pretty big. That's a pretty big. I mean, it's Sundance. Come on.
Yeah. So
yeah,
that's what's been going on in my life.
Don't downplay it. You should celebrate it.
Okay, I'll celebrate after we finish, because I had not celebrated. I was just kind of like, we'll see what comes next. But you're right, it's a big deal. Thing.
Yeah.
All right, so let's jump into it. Now, in our last episode, we've been talking about people who've heard about polyamory and kind of want to join the lifestyle. That's called opening up, going from monogamy to polyamory. In our last episode, we touched on some of the self-work you have to do before embarking on a polyamorous journey. And today we're going to discuss how to approach polyamory if you already have an existing partner. So, I don't know. I was thinking when we were kind of preparing for this, personally, I feel it's a lot easier to enter into polyamory if you're by yourself. If you're single versus if you're in a relationship. That doesn't mean run out and go break up with your current partner. But if we're being real, that's my opinion. What do you guys think? Does it matter? Does it change based on the people? I don't know.
I think you look like,
Yeah, because I'm trying to figure out how to word it, because I do think that I think the obvious way to state it is, of course, when you're single, it's easier. Mm-hmm. But I think, I don't know, I think it can be equally as hard when you think about it, right? Like, from the perspective of the self-work that we talked about previously that needs to be done. Mm-hmm. If you aren't willing to do that, even as a single person, it could be just as hard, right? If you just jump into a relationship or jump into the lifestyle without really knowing yourself, it could be really hard. It could fail, Yeah. So like I said, I think it could be. I could think it'd be just as difficult without the self-work and everything we talked about in our last episode.
Okay, that makes sense.
I feel you. I feel like, exactly what Victoria said. It's exactly how I feel about it too.
Okay, different opinions. I mean, either way, I think it can work, because everything is ultimately dependent on the people. I know with a partner, before you even bring it up, I feel like you have to already have a general sense of how open-minded your partner is. Mm-hmm. For example, if they get mad every time you mention a friend of the opposite sex or a coworker of the opposite sex, you're going to have a little bit of a harder time. And so I was thinking, like, I was coming from the perspective of where I thought it may be a little more difficult. I was trying to ask myself why that would be the case, even though you guys just refuted that, and I give you that. But I was thinking, I think people have two major fears, right? The first is losing their partner. This is why I think it's sometimes more difficult. I think people have a fear of losing their partner, right? Because if we have a nice closed situation here, if you open it up, what if she leaves me or if I leave her? That's a very real, visceral fear for most people. And so to start, I guess we should say, don't try to embark on this unless you're going to operate with a degree of character and honor. And I think the second fear people have is, what will people think? And that, I guess that's not really dependent on being in a relationship or not. Like, you can have that fear if you're single too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I think if you are in a relationship, perhaps there's a little bit more of a burden if it goes wrong. Then people will be like, oh, I told you so, or whatever. So I don't know. Those are just my thoughts. Let's talk about what to do if you're in a relationship and you want to kind of open up. What are some prerequisites, I guess you guys will say, if you're already in a relationship? We talked about the self-work. What about the relationship overall?
I think the obvious thing is, if you have issues in your current monogamous relationship, those need to be fixed. Those need to be addressed.
100%.
You need to be real enough with the current state of your relationship before you can even think about bringing a third person in, or any more than that.
Yeah, just to write on that too, like what Vic said, if you have problems in your relationship and you try and invite somebody else into your current relationship, it kind of seems like you're escaping from your problems and hoping that the other person would solve all of it for you, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And that's just not a good way to go into any relationship at all.
Yeah, and I've seen people try to do that before, so I do think that's a good point. I think for me, I'd say another thing is people need to definitely be open and honest about their wants, their needs, their expectations with their partner. Like, why do you desire a poly relationship? Is it curiosity? Is it because one of you slipped up with monogamy before and cheated and now you just rather be open? Mm-hmm. Are there unfulfilled needs or expectations? I don't know.
Yeah, and I think that you have to consider what you as a person, as an individual, what you need, what you want, right? And then I think we talk about, as a relationship, like I said in the beginning, if you have the ability to know your partner, know your relationship, and feel stable there, then I think it's easier to have the conversation, right? It's like you said about being open and honest about wants and expectations, but you can only do that if you already have the open communication in that monogamous relationship.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Anything to add, Em, to that point?
No, I think we're on the same page.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so let's talk about the concept of fairness, because I think when people first start to embark on this journey together, and you start thinking about it, I think that's one of the first things that are going to come up, like how can we make sure no one steps on the other person's toes? One thing I've seen is some people try to engage in this from a tit for tat type sense. Like, if I meet someone this week, Vic has to go out and meet someone this week.
Yeah.
Or, that type of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. You sound like you have some thoughts on that.
No, I mean, okay. So, the moment you brought that up, I just thought of my friend. So, it's a lot easier for females in general to get dates, right? I think it's a lot harder for men to get on dates because there's just a lot of women out there. There's just a lot of men out there who are looking for dates and not so many women who are looking for dates.
Right.
So what happens is, I think one of my friends, he told me this, he was getting a little bit jealous because his girlfriend, they're both in a polyamorous relationship. His girlfriend was going on like 2 to 3 dates in 1 week at one point, and he was just like stuck at home and didn't know what to do with himself. So he felt like, wow, this is really unfair. Like, how come she gets to go and do all these things and I just, already, am handicapped because I'm male. And I want to go do out and do stuff too. So I think what he ended up doing was, I think it was just, he called an old friend, I guess.
Okay. Found some entertainment of his own?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, but see, that's a very valid point, because I think this happens a lot for men. It is true, exactly what you said. I think, am I talking too loud now with this? Okay. Have to be sure here. I feel like a lot of times, say if the wife comes to the husband and says, hey, let's open up, let's try poly, the guy's gonna be like, yes, that's great. But exactly what you said happens. A woman can go out and find 20 opportunities for a date in one day. As a man, you're still going to have to work a little harder, because options and women, I feel, are more selective, generally speaking. So yeah, that's something to think about, that tit for tat aspect. It may not really be, equal in that sense, because again, the woman is 9 times out of 10 gonna find dates first. But I think it's important to remember that poly relationships all grow and flourish at different rates. So I don't think it's right to hold your partner back from developing a relationship just because you're trying to constrain them to being fair. Again, I met one person this week, or got one response on my dating app, and she got 20. Oh well, we agreed to try this. So I think, again, that's something you have to kind of consider.
Yeah, and then you also have to consider like personalities, and then just the general. Somebody might feel more comfortable with going at a slower rate in a relationship period, taking steps slower. Some people just have a different preference. So I think all of those things and that whole tit for tat thing goes out the window just because you need to consider the variables. There are too many of those.
And then not to cut you off, but not just when you're getting started, but even when things have already formed and you have an ongoing relationship. I've seen some people count hours. Like, you spent 10 and a half hours with this person and 8
oh my god.
I mean, seriously. So again, I think these are kind of some things to look out for, because those are ways to manipulate and kind of control the situation. And what if, like, her partner is grieving, like he had, his mother passed or something like that? You just never know. She might need to spend more time with that person. So that brings us to the next point. Agreements, right? Some people like to do a contract or a list of agreements. That wasn't necessary for us, but I think the word boundaries work better than rules.
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay, yeah, I like the
easier
word.
It's easier to take.
Because rules, it's too constraining. But boundaries, I think we all have our boundaries. So, are there any things in particular, like, you guys think partners should have a firm understanding on before they decide to open up?
I feel like it's very important to establish your boundaries, and even if you're unsure of certain things and you take the step and do something and realize that, okay, hey, I'm not okay with that, it's extremely important to communicate that, right? There's no way a partner is going to ask you proactively, and you can't rely on that all the time. It really boils down to yourself and how you want to communicate with your partner, because ultimately you're juggling not just your relationship with one other person, you're juggling multiple relationships, multiple people. There are multiple variables, and it all boils down to you been able to communicate well or not.
Yeah, that's very true.
And for me personally, something that a boundary that I've set within our relationship is I don't want to know about any of the intimacy aspects that you have. Like, I know what happens, but I just don't care to know about it. I don't want to know any details. I don't think it has anything to do with jealousy. A lot of people would probably say, oh, because you'll get jealous, that's why, right? No, I just have no desire to know. Like, I just don't want to know.
That's understandable. People don't need to know the nitty gritty.
Yeah, and it's a personal or a very intimate, like, relationship between two people should be between them. Like, what he and I do has nothing to do with what he and his other partners do. So that's how I feel. Wouldn't want to share that. So that's a boundary for me. That's something that I've set really early on, and I don't deviate from that. So, but I was clear.
I think that's a good thing. How much will you share, about your other partners and your experiences? I think some other good things to consider, setting some boundaries for, or how will you search for your partners? I know, like, M is a Tinder user. Some people will be down for that. Some people might say no, because I don't want, some of my friends or family to see us out there like we're married. I don't want them to see you on a dating app.
I didn't think about that.
See?
Yeah. I think online dating in general, people could have that kind of response to it. What if somebody you work with sees you, or
especially if you're just starting out, you might not want everybody to know until you guys get your footing with it, right? Another thing is, like, can you bring partners into your shared home if you're if you guys live together? Please,
oh my God, share some light on this, because you guys have, like, basically a big wholesome family at this point. How does that work?
So we talk about it. We've talked about in great detail about what would happen in pretty much every scenario. We do that a lot. We can do a lot of just different, like, what if this or what if that, and we really understand where we are. Like, so it's all about up front, like, hey, I'm talking to this person, this is what I would like to do, and we go from there, right? But there's never a point at which, oh yeah, they're gonna be here next week, it's not a springing on. It's literally we've kind of talked and communicated, so we know where it's going.
Okay, so for example, so there's someone I've been getting to know for a few months. She knows about this person. We've discussed this person coming to visit. And so it's not like what she's saying, it's not being sprung on her. Now, how that works logistically, we have multiple rooms in the house. So there's always a separate room for guests. And the guests, have somewhere they can stay. And I mean, there are not really any hard boundaries outside of that, besides the fact that we just keep things as classy as possible for the sake of the kids. You understand what I'm saying? So people can come and have fun, but, and I don't mean that sounds bad, come and have fun, come to the city and have fun. But what I'm saying is everybody kind of has their space, and we don't invite random people. Like, we really have to have a strong connection for me to allow you into our home, because again, my kids are here. It'd be different if it were just us, but because my kid is here, I really have to have a very strong connection with that person.
And I think that's a very important point, right? The understanding and the trust that I have that he would never bring anybody around my home or my children, and vice versa. I would never bring anybody around my home or his children that we would have that would pose a problem. Excuse me. That would pose a problem or cause any issues, right? So again, going back to the beginning, understanding your relationship, knowing where you are, communication, trust, that all matters.
Yeah. Did I answer your question then?
Yeah.
No? Okay. I wasn't sure. Okay, cool. So yeah, that is a big thing, because again, I'm big on that. Like, if I am going to invite someone in the home, they can't be disrespectful. They can't have, I hate to use this word, but like a catty, combative type attitude. You have to kind of shortstop those things at the door. And then, like she said, that allows her to continue to trust me to say, okay, you can, someone can come visit. Some other things I think you need to figure out with your partner is how open you would be with friends and family about your new lifestyle. Because that goes back to what we were saying about people seeing you on dating apps. Are you going to tell people right away? Do you kind of want to see how it goes first? Are mutual friends off the table as partners or, potential lovers? Another big one is what constitutes sex.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Because some people say it's penetration, some people say it's oral. So what if you have a rule that says no sex on the first date, but you guys have not really outlined what constitutes sex for both of you guys, and I come home and say, well, I just got oral, and she's like, you had sex with her. So I think
being able to clearly defining and communicating what all of that means to you. Absolutely.
This kind of makes me feel like there should be like a checklist, an introduction to the guide, or the introduction to polyamorous life.
Hey,
list down your yes and no's, do's and don'ts.
Yeah, right. Your hard no's, exactly. The hard no's are over here.
Yeah, exactly.
We need to market that.
If you sold that, I think, that would be, you just make money.
Hey, that's a good idea. We'll discuss that offline. But and so I think another thing, because we've really had to think about this over the years, is like decide in advance what you should do if one person becomes uncomfortable and says, hey, this isn't for me. Because again, if you've been with a person for years and you guys decide to open up and one person is miserable and the other person is loving it, I think it's cool to have a little fail-safe button in there like, hey, wait a minute, we already agreed if we came to this point, this is what we would do. Because otherwise, it could be unfair to both parties.
Yeah,
I don't know,
definitely.
what do you guys think?
I agree. I think that this goes back to, like, the whole agreement thing, or actually writing it out, sounds like that's just weird. It's not a business arrangement, but it kind of is, right?
It's important, right?
Yeah, it is. And I think writing it out makes it real.
You write it.
Also,
you have to hold people accountable
exactly,
too.
Accountability. Yeah. And I think that when you have something to reference back, because the memory is funny, right? We don't always remember everything that we say or do.
That is true.
Being able to go back to that Google document or the actual thing that you hand wrote, it would make the person just stop and like, okay, we did agree to this. Let me check myself. And like Em just said, accountability, right? Personal accountability to what I promised you in the contracts.
That is true. So we're doing poly contracts now. That's what we're saying.
There you go. Poly contracts. That's what we're calling them.
All right, poly contracts. And another thing is, I think more importantly, or not more importantly, but another important thing is you have to discuss what is your hardline deal breaker with your partner. For example, when we decided we were going to be polyamorous, which it was Vic's idea, by the way, because people always think it was mine. It was Vic's idea. But her rules, first and foremost, were no outside kids, no STDs, no disrespect. And I understand that. I thought those were pretty simple and easy to live by. So I definitely think you have to discuss what those deal breakers are for you and your partner. Now, another thing, once you get past the poly contract, is how you can learn about poly together. So, I know you mentioned reading books, and you were talking to a friend who was already poly when you were first starting out on the journey. Were there any other ways that you were able to gain information about the lifestyle?
I think I kind of fell into it. So I live in SF, right? I feel everyone's kind of been exposed to the polyamorous life a little bit here. Okay. So I think at that point when I was dating multiple people, I chanced across a few people who were already practicing polyamorous lifestyles. So I learned mostly from them. I call them my friends. They're my friends still. I learned mostly from them, and I asked them about, because I think every polyamorous couple or every group, they have their own rules, and it differs from person to person. So if you are in a big group of polyamorous people, they have a really hard set of rules that you cannot break, because if one gets affected, it's like a chain reaction, right? Multiple people get affected. Whereas like when I was talking to a friend who's polyamorous, him and his girlfriend are polyamorous, they have other partners, but it's not like one big group of people. That's a little bit more flexible for some reason, because it's just between the both of them. There are less restrictions, less people's opinions like on the table. So that's mostly how I learned about polyamory.
Okay. That's pretty cool, because I don't know, have you come across a lot of poly people poly beside us? And we're not in
real life.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. That's
not
what I'm
in
saying.
real life. Online,
online you can find people, but that's cool that you've been able to meet a lot of people in 3D. I know some ways that may work for other people. Say you're in a small town, or there are support groups, there are online groups. Although I found some of the online groups, just to be honest, can kind of be an echo chamber for people's insecurities sometimes. So kind of pick and choose your groups
and stuff,
with care. Again, there are books, there are articles. You had something to say?
No. Keep going.
Oh, okay. And then there are TV shows and films. And again, I kind of mentioned this in the first episode. We were just talking about how poly is represented. Now, keep in mind, the TVs and shows are going to always focus on the drama. So they might not be the best example, but you can find some good gems. Back when we first got married back in the day, we watched Big Love. And it's a show about a Mormon family. One guy has like three different wives. And while we're not Mormon, it was actually enlightening to see how 3 households could be managed together, and how the women could get along without the stereotypical cattiness, and how the husband was actually attentive and affectionate. He wasn't just a stereotypical male chauvinist. So I think, to be honest, that helped me set up my ideal dream, because I'm more of a family-based poly type person. So that kind of helped me get an idea like, hey, this is how I can make it work. I think that was a really good example. Were you going to say something?
No, I think I watched a documentary on this too, and he had, I don't know if it's called Sister Wives. I don't remember.
Yeah.
It's a very strange name, but I saw that it was beautiful. Like they had many children. All of them seemed to be very happy, and because they're surrounded by people who are loving. Obviously, they've had, like in the documentary, it covered their own struggles with it too. But for the most part, it seemed like they're a functioning nuclear family, so that's impressive.
Yeah, and that's my dream personally. To build a family unit where it's not just people going out to date random people all the time, but hey, we're working together. Because I think there are other things, and we'll get into this in another episode. But one thing that people don't think about a lot with poly, I see people always thinking about the sex. There are other tangible, real benefits. For example, compounding incomes. Imagine what you can do with 2 incomes. Well, picture 3 incomes or 4 incomes. Once you become a high earner, that affords you a whole different standard of living. So I like that. I like the fact or the thought of being able to have many children with multiple mothers to kind of help. And just a big environment of love. It's an African proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. So I like that whole it takes a village mentality. So did I go off on a tangent?
No.
I
think it's what we're talking about.
But okay, back to the viewer. I'm sorry, because I try not to delve too personally into my stuff. But back to the viewers, I think another key thing you have to do with your partner is learn to deprogram yourself from monogamy. I'm going to read a quote that I found here. In a recent article, Elbow, ELLEBEAU, Elbow, explored how failure to recognize and address your ingrained ideas can easily sabotage efforts at polyamory. She said, quote, monogamy is so culturally ingrained that I think most people who engage in consensual non-monogamy really need to actively deprogram themselves and learn about polyamory as a different relationship style first. Whatever form of polyamory that you engage in, it is bound to be significantly different from monogamy in many fundamental ways. I think it's important to poly relationships success to acknowledge that. I really love that quote. I thought it was a really good point.
Yeah, that is a great quote.
Because you do have to deprogram yourself from everything we've been taught since we were kids.
And even everything that society still teaches you, right? They pound it in your head. A man and a woman. You have to get married. You have 2.5 kids, and you get out like that. All that stuff is just like thrown at you every day.
Exactly. And then on the other extreme end, it's like, oh, when you're above 30, like, why are you not married? What's wrong with you? You should get married.
There's has to be something wrong with you.
Has to be something wrong with you, not because you're your own person. You want to make your own decisions. Something's wrong.
Not at all.
Yeah, and I think that is applied to women more than men that are above 30, because like men you don't hear that much, but I agree with women, that's part of the programming. So here's a new concept, guys: toxic monogamy.
Dun dun dun.
I mean everything's toxic nowadays. So I was really thinking about this, like what are some monogamy traits that can kind of be a little toxic. So I'll start first with a couple I came up with. Not allowing your partners to have outside friends or interests that they can share with their others. Like you have to be your partner's best friend and go with them everywhere and do everything. And I kind of feel like people who do that see their partner as their personal property. Have you guys ever seen those type of people?
I totally see that. Absolutely.
Highly possessive people.
Like those people that can't spend, they can't spend any time alone. Like every
they have
waking
to
moment
ask for permission to do things, and there's like a curfew.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I've seen
curfew.
that.
Yeah, I've seen that too. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I've seen communication curfews, like don't have someone, text you or call you after 9 or 10 o'clock. You mean in the house curfew?
Like you can't go, you have to be back home by a certain time kind of curfew. Yeah.
Wow, yeah. So I don't know. Again, I don't think that has a place in polyamory, because again, you can't really infringe upon someone else developing a relationship,
Absolutely.
It might be a good night. They might really be having a good like what if the partner is really opening up? You're just thinking they're out having sex because it's late. People can have sex any time of the day. But what if they're having a good conversation, they're actually building, and it's like, I gotta get home by 9. Nah. So I was thinking, if people are getting started, right, and they're kind of embarking on this journey together, how can they know how well they're doing? Like, what is their measure of success? I felt like for me, I measure how well we're doing with our relationship based on how much of our needs are being met overall. Because and some people say how happy you are, but think about when your needs are met, you're happy, So that's kind of how I measure it. How do you measure the success of our relationship? And how do you measure the success of your relationships? Or can you think of any other good alternative ways besides what I said?
Yeah, I think a good way to measure it is not only just how happy do I feel right now, but really like how do I feel about the or how can I communicate with my partner? How are we communicating on a regular basis? Do I feel like I can talk to you? Do I feel like I can go to you with a problem or an issue? Because I think that's the basis, right? Is the communication. We've talked about that, kind of harped on it, I think, over the last now 3 episodes about how important communication is. So in my mind, it's like stepping back and saying, okay, are we communicating effectively? And how is that looking? And I would use that as a measure of success.
That makes sense. It kind of makes me feel a little selfish now. I was thinking about my needs being met. She's like, how well we can communicate and express ourselves. I'm sorry, darling. That's my barometer. Yeah.
I think for me, it's been a long time since I've been in a polyamorous relationship, but I feel like as you're dating multiple people, how I feel successful or how I feel that the relationship can be successful is when I find myself wanting to spend more time with the person and then sharing more about myself, right? Because in polyamorous relationships, although you are in a relationship, there's like so much you want to share because not everything has to be shared. It's up to you to decide, right? So if I find that I find myself sharing more and wanting to spend more time with this person, then it'll seem like, okay, wait, maybe there's been a little shift of dynamic for now. This person may no longer be like a secondary partner anymore, or is on its way to becoming primary, and it's something that should be talked about, right? Yeah,
I agree.
I guess it depends on which perspective or where you're standing from, how you're looking at it. Yeah,
it makes sense. I'll just put my vote in for communication. Just to clear that up, I'm on a communication team now. Forget my needs being met. I don't want any trouble here. I'm double teamed.
You're just gonna cut everything out.
Cut all that I said. Yes.
Edit.
From the jump. Communication. No, you know what I like? What's cool? I'm sorry about that. You know what I actually think is cool about this, though, is that when I was sitting here working through this episode, going over the thoughts and ideas myself, I had certain opinions, but as we were talking, even my mind is getting changed a little bit. So I think that's cool. So going back to communication, if you're opening up, okay, as a couple, pre-existing couple, you got to figure out what to do with jealousy. It's gonna come up. This is the elephant in the room, jealousy, right?
Yep, you're human. It's gonna happen. Doesn't matter.
Exactly. Yep. So I think you got to learn first and foremost how to get to the root of jealousy, right? If you're jealous because your partner finds a new partner, figure out, is it because you feel they find you unattractive now? Is it because you hate spending time alone? Is it that you resent the new relationship energy? Your partner is all bubbly and happy, walking around smiling, talking to someone new, and you're sitting over there waiting for someone to swipe. Is it left or right on you when you approve?
I think it's right.
Okay, yeah, you're waiting for someone to swipe right on you and she's getting all the love over here. You have to really ask yourself, where is this coming from?
Yeah.
Is it because you're having a hard time connecting with people? What is it? And I think first and foremost, you have to be real with yourself about those insecurities, and then going back to what we said, it's that calm, open communication. Because I think being emotional and becoming irrational during the discussion will totally derail things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I think you gotta, I don't know, that's another thing. We talked about it before, but you still gotta remain cognizant of keeping your emotions kind of under control during this poly.
You have to keep asking yourself, like, why am I feeling this way, right? Like,
exactly.
Is it because this person did something, or is it because like there's something within me that I need to address?
Yeah. I don't know. I was gonna ask. Well, I guess she just explained. I was gonna ask how you guys dealt with jealousy, but I guess Em just answered it. So never mind.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot, right? You have to be somewhere emotionally to be able to ask yourself these questions, because if you are not very emotionally developed, your first instinct would be to be like an attack, right? You would attack and be like, why are you doing this? Why are you like that? And it's all like, what's wrong with this person? And not so much like, why am I feeling like this? What's the cause of this problem? And then you dig deeper and deeper and deeper. So most often, I would just generally just sit and observe myself before forming what I'd like to ask or talk about with my partner.
Okay, you're very thoughtful I like that. Very thoughtful in the forefront. I kind of just say stuff because I think about it quick, but I like that approach. Don't give me that look. What were you going to say, darling? Next subject?
So I will say this. Something I dealt with a lot when I was younger was the jealousy aspect. I think in the beginning of our relationship, 18, 19 years old, you know, you're just starting to even just really understand yourself. So when the poly mindset kind of set in for me later on, it was something that I already knew what my hangups were. Okay, I already knew what my issues were. Biggest one was this whole my mentality or idea that if you're in a relationship, this person is mine, right? And you can't have that with the poly mindset. It's just it's unrealistic, even in a monogamous relationship. Okay, but it's something that I saw growing up, and I had to really sit down with myself. And this goes back to the beginning. We were talking about the self-work, right? And even in the last episode, things you need to do and realize where they stem from. Because I saw how my parents were. And so that then had me form some type of idea in my head of why I felt like when I was in a relationship, this person was mine. And, you know, like, so really, but you have to dig deep for that, right? Because I didn't have the best childhood, but I had to dig into the memories and really like do a lot of self-work to figure out where it was coming from. So, you know, like you said, it being emotionally developed is really important. You have to really be able to dig deep and go into those very uncomfortable places and address those, you know, those issues and those things. And you can't have a partner who doesn't understand. I think if you are in a relationship, which is what we're talking about here, your partner needs to be able to help you to push you to kind of one way or the other, right, to make you better. And that's, I think, another fundamental aspect of going into poly. Your relationship has to be one of which you can go to your partner, they will be real with you, they will help you to be better and to do better.
Yeah, that'll help with jealousy. I agree that. Again, communication. Geez, everything keeps coming back to communication. I think I'm an alien. I'm not really a jealous person because I have so much to do and other things to focus my attention on that, hey, and if you go out with your other guy tonight, go ahead. Just as an example, you know, I don't have time to sit around and wonder and worry about that. So it's
a useless emotion when you think about it.
Yeah,
but it really is. It can be valid, but whatever. But
I'll say this: I often think I'm not the best person to speak about jealousy because it's hard for me to relate. You see what I'm saying? But speaking of jealousy, I want to give an example of something to watch out for: emotional manipulation. Right?
Tell me more. This is an interesting topic.
I don't know. You sound like you're the expert on that. You know some stuff.
No. Tell me more.
Okay. Well, no, I just this example I saw once where this couple had agreed to open up, and the wife knew the husband was going out on a date with this person. The wife had communicated with this person. They all had gotten along great. And as soon as the lady came over, you know, they sat and conversed for about an hour first. And then it was time for the husband and the girlfriend to leave and go on a date. And the wife just threw a fit. And it became a recurring pattern. Every time the husband would get ready to go out for a date, the wife would break down and cry. And now he has to stop and tend to her, or else he's going to look like the asshole. Earmuffs, darling. Oh, she's asleep. But, you know, or else he'll look bad, you know, it'll appear like he's neglecting his wife. And I just felt like that was serious emotional manipulation. So watch out for that. Yeah. I think it helps. We're coming to the end of the list, but I think it helps to have a set time kind of when to talk. I mean, it might not work for everyone to have a set time, but what I'm saying is figure out, do you discuss issues as soon as they arise? Do you do it at the end of the day? Do you do it once a week on Sunday when you go for your hike together or something, you know? But definitely have a time where it's your safe space to talk about it. Like, I know I'm a as soon as things arise type person because I don't like to give people's imaginations time to make things bigger. But a lot of people need time to sit back and process. So you really have to talk to your partner and figure out a way that will work best for both of you guys. What do you think?
That's what I was going to say. I think it's really about your relationship with your partner and how you two communicate, how, you know, like understanding where you both come from, where you both stand, and because one may be like you, right? I want to address it right now. I need to deal with it right. Me personally, I do want to sit a little bit. I want to think about what I'm going to say, how I'm going to say it, and then to get you to understand. Like even if it's an hour, I want that hour to be able to digest and then get my thoughts together. Might even make a list. Who knows?
Yeah. So
and in that hour, my brain is going crazy. Like
that's the thing. So I've definitely been on both ends of the spectrum, right? There are sometimes I'm just like, oh my god, I need to say this now, but then like it's coupled with it's fueled by all these emotions, and it's not necessarily going to come out right. So I think it's like the best way to talk about it is like, okay, I'm going to set a time. Let's set a time. Let's talk about this together. So that person will have enough time to maybe calm down or like write down the list, create the list, or and then on the other hand, it's like I get to calm down and like plan out what I want to say the most effective way. Because some people respond like it's semantics, right? You say something a little bit differently, with a different word. People who are maybe a bit on edge will receive it differently and become defensive. Yeah, so
you guys are very thoughtful. I like that. I wing it, man. I'm Phoenix. I'm coming in on a hope and a prayer with mine.
But like the Scorpio that I am, if I say something immediately, I know I'm not gonna meet. The chances of me really, really meaning that are probably not very high.
You probably did really mean that really mean thing.
Yeah, in that second I probably did. You're right, but it's not how I feel all the time. And I don't want somebody to to take that in as a like that's exactly what she thinks of me all the time. No, I was just really pissed off, and that's what I said. I take an hour, get rid of all that pissed offness.
No, I get it. I get it. And M makes lists and everything. Good grief. No, I'm joking, but this is actually really good. I think these are, again, I'm making light of it, but I think these are good things to think of when you're putting yourself into a highly emotional charged situation, such as a new polyamorous relationship with your current partner. Another thing I'll say before we wrap up is when you do get into your new polyamorous relationship, control your NRE, your new relationship energy, okay? Yeah. We get it. Being in a new relationship is fun. It's invigorating. But that being said, don't neglect your current partner. Don't ignore their feelings. And don't be an asshole about it. Especially if they're having a hard time kind of getting their thing going on their side. Again, this is about being attentive. And I think if you're just like so drunk and high off NRE all the time where your partner's struggling, that's a surefire way to make your poly experience a short one.
Agreed.
Yeah, because I think that, like what you were saying before, that knowing your partner and how they handle certain situations, how they handle being alone, all of those things will matter with the NRE and how you deal with that.
Yeah, I agree. So, real quick, easing your partner into the concept, okay? Let's see, you can show them episode 1 of the podcast, right? Of our podcast. Like maybe tell them a friend sent it to you or you stumbled across it on your feed. I'm not advocating lying, but I'm saying you have to broach the subject with some finesse because even though usually I say just be blunt and honest, I think a more insecure partner sometimes will wonder, why are you asking about polyamory? Where is this coming from? Is there already someone else, And you don't want to freak them out and make them have a knee-jerk reaction because most people, we've been all, indoctrinated with monogamy since birth. I'm sorry, I'm looking at her.
It's okay.
I thought she was smiling in her sleep. But most people are going to have a knee-jerk reaction when you first mention polyamory, right? But if you can apply some logic and some reason, you may have an easier time trying to inception the polyamory transition instead of just coming straight out and hitting you with it. Another way is like analogy. Sometimes I think it helps to give an analogy to your partner because they'll say, well, why do you want someone else instead of me? For example, we just had our daughter. We have a son. When our daughter was born, that didn't make us love our son any less. So I feel like love can be multiplied instead of divided. That's one of my quick analogies I use. You guys have any good analogies for the viewer? Something they can take with them?
No, I think that's a good one. I think children is probably the best one. Also with siblings, same thing. You love all your siblings. Sometimes you don't like them, equally,
you can love multiple friends.
But you love them.
That's true. Any other ways you can think of people might ease it in there?
I'd say you don't necessarily only have to love one person forever. If you have the capacity to love more, what's wrong with that? What's stopping you? Yeah, you're just doing yourself an injustice. by staying with just one, I feel. Unless that's what you really want, so you know what I mean. But no great analogies. That's just how I personally feel.
Hey, well, hopefully some of this helps. Help some couples, because I know there are some couples that have been watching this and kind of responding and keeping up with us, and they've been having some good breakthroughs in their communications and being able to open up to each other. One couple has already opened up, and they didn't even get this far in the series yet, and they opened up. So I think that's pretty cool. Yeah. So I'll tell you about that offline. I didn't get to tell you about that, but. All right, guys, opening up a monogamous relationship, it takes a bit of forethought, but it's definitely possible. You just have to really be honest with yourself about your wants and expectations, and you need to give your partner the space and the freedom to do the same with you. And then from there, I guess you map out your boundaries, what you both are and aren't comfortable accepting. And I really think you got to keep in mind, this is something I always remind myself. Any partner who is willing to embark on this journey with you is really an amazing understanding person. So I suggest honoring your partnership agreements and not doing them dirty in the process of exploration. What do you guys think?
100%.
All right. So hit us in the comments below with any thoughts, questions, suggestions. If you decide to test these poly waters, we love to hear about your experience. Remember to stay safe, stay true, and love freely. See you next time, guys.
Bye.